Good morning, everyone. How are you enjoying your breakfast this morning? Excellent. Good. My name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. We are gathered together this morning in Ottawa. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Board of Trade honors the peoples and land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. The Ottawa Board of Trade honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you this morning. Thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and your passion for the growth and well-being of our beautiful city and province. Thank you for being fully vaccinated and making it easy to follow our event protocols, including remaining masked and less eating or drinking, using the sanitizer, and, as I have to tell my 10-year-old, keep your hands to yourself. I saw all of you doing that, and in this way, we can continue to gather safely. A big thank you to our folks at the Book Street for hosting us this morning and working with us to keep everyone safe. I'd like to welcome a few special guests, the first being our speaker this morning, the Honorable Peter Bethlenfalvy. He is joined by the Honorable Mary Lee Fullerton, the Honorable Lisa MacLeod, and MPP Goldie Gamari. We are also joined, of course, this morning by His Worship Mayor Jim Watson and our economic partners, Lise Sarazan from RGA and Michael Crockett from Ottawa Tourism. Thank you. And I'm also thrilled to welcome here this morning the newest inductee of the Best Ottawa Business Awards, Newsmaker of the Year. Please welcome Dr. Vera Etches. I would like to extend special appreciation to the leaders of the Board of Trade, our Board of Directors who've joined us this morning, our Chair, Ian Sherman, along with Ruby Williams, Rick Chase, Wayne French, and Yasser Gassi. Thank you all for being here and for your leadership throughout this year. The Ottawa Board of Trade is the voice of business and key advocate for economic growth in our nation's capital. Our mission is to cultivate a thriving, world-class business community in Ottawa through leadership and partnerships. It is to that end that we are so excited to welcome the Ontario Finance Minister to Ottawa to discuss the future of our province. On behalf of our board, I would like to express our appreciation to all our leaders in the Ontario government for your radical collaboration during this challenging and constantly changing time. We have a complex road to recovery in front of us with many opportunities to build back better, and the Board of Trade pledges to you our commitment to work together with you, our colleagues at the Ontario Chamber, and our business community to leverage private sector investment to drive growth. So let's get started. Please join me in welcoming His Worship, Mayor Jim Watson, to provide welcoming remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Suling. Merci beaucoup, Suling. C'est un plaisir pour moi d'être ici avec vous ce matin. It's always a pleasure to be back at the Brook Street Hotel in beautiful Canada, a home of the largest tech park in all of Canada. Welcome the ministers, MPP, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to point out Ian Sherman, the chair of the Board of Trade, who later this evening will receive the Order of Ottawa for his great contributions to our community. Congratulations to you. It's also an honor to have the finance minister here. We had a great meeting just beforehand, and the minister is no stranger to Ottawa. He's been here many, many times and a great champion of technology and economic development, and understands the challenges that municipalities are facing dealing with COVID-19. So thank you very much, Minister, for being here. We look forward to your comments very, very shortly. The city and its economic development partners, including the Board of Trade, and I got to give great credit to Sue Ling and her team, her mighty team of, I think, 3 or 4 people, along with a great board of directors, are working together, along with Ottawa Tourism. I see Michael Crockett here, Invest Ottawa, Regroupement des gens d'affaires, and so many other economic partners to fight our way out of the challenges the pandemic has thrown our way. We created the Mayor's Economic Task Force, first convened in March 2020, continues to play a leading role in our economic recovery with partners bringing invaluable perspective, talent, and ideas to the table. Nous comptons sur tous nos partenariats pour nous aider à cette reprise économique très importante, non seulement pour la ville d'Ottawa, mais certainement pour tout notre pays. I'm very proud of the many Shop Local campaigns that we have launched together during the last 20 months, and I know these efforts were instrumental for some businesses to survive. We're continuously assessing ways the city can help small business owners recover, and I'm particularly proud of the work that the city did in consultation with economic partners like the BIAs, the Council of BIAs, the Board of Trade, to deliver a new small business tax subclass that the minister allowed in legislation for us to do. This will reduce annual property taxes by 15% over the next 2 years for 10,000 eligible businesses across the city. And again, I want to thank Minister Bethlenfalvy and his government, who made the legislative changes required for municipalities to offer this tax discount to these small businesses. These are small mom and pop operations, maybe have 5, 10, maybe 2 employees, and many of them have been hanging on by their fingernails, and this is going to give them a real economic boost. We also, for instance, brought forward waiving the patio fees. You might not think that's a big deal, but it is to the restaurant industry that's been hard hit, and I know Lisa's working hard to help the tourism and hospitality sector. And that saved, for instance, Pub Italia on Preston Street, $8,000 this summer. So that goes a long way to helping that individual restaurateur's bottom line. As you know, many of our hardest hit sectors feel the impact of COVID-19, festivals, events, live entertainment. And that said, I'm very proud of the work that Dr. Etches and her team and Tony DeMonte, when he was here, did to ensure that we get as many vaccinations in people as possible. And that said, our city has the highest vaccination rate of any of the big cities, the top 7 cities in Canada, with 87% of eligible being fully vaccinated. 87%, and we're climbing up slowly but surely to 90%. And I think single doses, we're now at 91%, if I'm not mistaken. So those are very, very good numbers we should be proud of as residents of Ottawa. And because of this extraordinary response by our residents, we're getting closer to putting the pandemic behind us. But it's not gone. Please continue to respect the rules put out by Ottawa Public Health. Almost all public sector employees are currently working from home, and thousands of private sector employees are also absent from Ottawa's downtown. We need to get people back to the downtown core. Combined with other pandemic impacts to business and leisure travel, the shift continues to have a significant impact on our economy, especially those downtown businesses. But there are signs that things are improving. The local unemployment rate released just a little while ago was 5.4% in October, still too high, but the lowest of Canada's big cities compared to 8.1% in October last year. And Ottawa's vacant office space decreased in the third quarter of 2021 for the first time in 21 months, signaling the local market is starting to recoup and recover. Il y a plusieurs signes qui indiquaient que la réponse économique est bon train à Ottawa. And we'll continue to work with all of our stakeholders at the 2 levels of government. C'est vraiment important pour travailler avec les 3 paliers du gouvernement. And as we head into the holiday season, I want to thank the BIAs, our small business owners, our entrepreneurs, for your contributions and efforts to thrive and keep people employed in our city. With Christmas around the corner, I want to encourage everyone to continue to buy local. This is the year to sort of put down the mouse and not go to Amazon and the big guys. Go and help the small guys on Saint Joseph, Montreal Road, Bank Street, Elgin Street. All of these small business areas need your support, whether it's in the rural villages of Carp and Osgood and Metcalfe. Please go out and shop local, show some support, because these are the small businesses that you go to get that basket for the hockey tournament or that dinner for 2 for the raffle for the Cancer Society. You don't get that from Walmart, folks. You get it from the small Main Street businesses. We need to support those businesses now more than ever. So thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, and have a great, great morning. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Well said. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the stage the Honourable Mary Lee Fullerton, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services.
I must say this is my favorite podium. I think there's a button here that'll make it go down. Here we go. So someone coming after me will probably have to put it up. Yeah, it's right down here, Peter. You got it. It is absolutely fantastic to be here with all of you today. And I think we will never take for granted the ability for people to meet person to person after this pandemic is over. And I think we could start being grateful right now. So thank you. I'd like to thank the Ottawa Board of Trade for hosting us at this breakfast this morning. I really believe that it's groups like the Ottawa Board of Trade and your businesses that make this community such a special place. Not only Ottawa, but Canada, Carleton. And I love what the tech community has been able to provide for us here. And I just think as we go forward, it may be new and we may have a new way of doing things, but we're finding our way. And there really is a sense of excitement. And so I just want to thank you all for everything that you've been doing to try and get through this. We're not done yet, as we said, but we're getting there. And so thank you for all your contributions. And it's leadership. That's what you are. You're leaders, and you're helping everyone under your wings to move along and move forward. And I can't say enough about the Honourable Minister of Finance, Honourable Peter Bethlenfalvy. He really is a tremendous leader, and he's not a stranger to Canada. He's very much a supporter of of all that we have to offer here. And so I appreciate his leadership, his enthusiasm for what we've created here and what we will continue to create for Ontario's economy. So thank you, and again, gratitude. So Silicon Valley North. That's what we used to call it many years ago. Time flies, and I think we're still Silicon Valley North. This is, as Mayor Watson mentioned, this is Canada's largest technology park. And I keep saying that at Queen's Park. I think they're tired of hearing me say it, but I'll continue to say it. And so the challenges that we've seen with COVID, they have impacted businesses, and we need to acknowledge that and understand that there is support. We have supported them, and as we go forward, it will be new, and how we listen and how we hear as a government from you. So these venues, these opportunities to hear from and discuss person to person are so important. And as you know, Minister Bethlenfalvy announced the fall economic statement recently, and it speaks about that. How do we progress? How do we build Ontario? How do we get working for workers? And so the labor issues, many of these issues are complicated, but we can get through them. So we build on our strengths, and your leadership will make all the difference. So I'm very grateful to all of you here, and I would like a very warm welcome for Honourable Peter Bethlenfalvy, Ontario's Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Mary. Okay, I've got to find the button here. It's right here. There we go. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, thank you, Mary Lee. That was tremendous, and it's always rewarding when my three colleagues give me a standing ovation. Feel free to join them at any point. We do that in question period from time to time, so we're really used to that. We're definitely got a lot of money, and we're spending historic amounts, and particularly to fight the pandemic. And I do it all over again, because the health and safety of all Ontarians is our number one priority, and we won't ever stay from that course. I do want to thank Dr. Etches for your leadership in the community. So remarkable what you've done here in Ottawa, in the region, and showing the way for the rest of Ontario. And as was mentioned, it's the leadership of everyone in this room. It's the leadership of all the individuals and following the protocol. So congratulations on terrific leadership there. I also want to thank my colleagues here, Mr. McLeod, Minister Fullerton, MPP Goldie Gamari. Thank you for joining me here. They keep inviting me here. I'm going to keep coming back because I love Ottawa. My grandfather lived here for many, many years, so I know Ottawa quite well. I also want to thank you, Suling. Your leadership and the business community takes the risks and creates the jobs that propel this great economy forward. So thank you for your leadership. And finally, I want to thank Mayor Watson for your leadership. Just found out a fellow Montrealer, so we do have some roots a little bit way back when though, and impeccable French. So nice to see you again, Mayor Watson, and thank you for your leadership in Ottawa. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I do want to talk about our vision. We really have a vision for Ontario. We've gone through a lot, but we have a vision to lead economic growth in Canada for the province of Ontario, but we're also setting the bar higher. We want to lead economic growth in North America, and we want to deliver on our vision. And to do that, we have a plan. And that plan begins with a strong pandemic management, but it also looks down the road a little bit. Looks beyond to the challenges we face as a province and how we address them. This is our plan for jobs. This is going to be our plan for opportunities. This is going to be our plan that I'll share with you on how we build Ontario together. C'est notre plan pour créer des emplois, notre plan pour créer des possibilités, et notre plan pour bâtir l'Ontario. From the very beginning of the pandemic, we have been transparent and accountable to the people of Ontario. We were the first province to provide a fiscal update during COVID-19. And like clockwork, we have reported back regularly on the state of the province's finances. And just as a CEO, I come from the private sector, spent most of my career in the private sector. Just as a CEO is accountable to their shareholders, it's my job as Minister of Finance to be accountable to Ontario taxpayers. As we reported in the 2021 Ontario Economic Outlook and Fiscal Review, Ontario's economy has proven to be resilient through the pandemic, and we have seen significant improvement in the province's position as a result. For 21-22, we are projecting a deficit of $21.5 billion, which is $11.6 billion lower than the outlook published in the March budget. So as we work towards economic and fiscal recovery, our plan will continue to strengthen critical programs and services and invest in the future. It's a plan that dreams big and lays out a clear path to take us there. One of the important reminders from the pandemic is that our healthcare system is linked. Healthcare, public health, ICU capacity, surgical wait times, mental health. These are all linked. And as I always say, you can't have a healthy economy without healthy people. And we have to build our capacity in all these four areas, and we got to build the pillars together. So likewise, our economy is linked. Through prudent economic management, we can attract investment and restore our leadership in things like resource extraction, steel, manufacturing, and other industries. These industries and these investments will allow us, for example, to unlock the awe-inspiring potential of Ontario's north. Dr. Etch has mentioned that she's from Sudbury. I recently was in Sudbury. I was in Timmins. I was in Thunder Bay. I was in Sault Ste. Marie. Tremendous potential in the north. And accessing those resources holds the power to fuel a manufacturing renaissance in this province, with abundant critical minerals to build resilient and strong supply chains for electric vehicles and battery manufacturing right here in the province of Ontario. We have it all. But in order to attract more investment in these industries, we need skilled workers. And that requires us to expand training and encourage more young people to pursue rewarding, well-paying jobs like the skilled trades. Keeping these skilled workers in Ontario requires us to invest in communities with better healthcare and stronger local infrastructure, supply chains that keep essential goods moving, and roads, transit, highways that make it easier to get to where you're going. It's all linked. Our economy is a machine, and if one part of that machine is not working to its full potential, it holds all of us back. But if Ontario is firing on all cylinders, well, there's no place that I'd rather be, and I think you would agree that there's no place you'd rather be than right here in Ontario. Our plan is ambitious. It's forward-looking, but most importantly, it's achievable. So let me highlight our vision and our plan. It starts with the first pillar of our plan, protecting our progress. Our government has learned many things through the hard-fought lessons of the pandemic. Notre gouvernement a tiré de dures leçons de la pandémie. The pandemic revealed the neglect in our health and long-term care system by previous governments for many years. We are not going to repeat those mistakes, and it starts with our seniors. Our plan includes building spaces for our seniors, including 30,000 net new long-term care beds. But our plan is more than just building beds. It's about building better beds, modern beds. And our promise to Ontario seniors is that they can live in comfort, dignity, and safety. And that is why we're going to raise the bar for what constitutes acceptable care in our long-term care system. And we've already come so far. We've committed $4.9 billion, that's almost $5 billion, to increase direct care for residents to an average of 4 hours per resident per day. And we're starting that now, and we'll achieve that goal within 4 years. And just starting this month, we're providing homes with funding of $270 million to increase the average to 3 hours a day. That's the highest level in all of Canada. That's 4 hours is the gold standard in all of Canada. Our plan, though, is to not stop there. Our plan puts higher standards and more accountability in place by doubling the number of long-term care home inspectors across the province and hiring 225 new nurse practitioners in the long-term care sector. And I do want to pause there for a second, because under the leadership of Marilee Fullerton, who really navigated through a very challenging time, worked 24/7 and worked with many of you in this room and right across this province to provide the leadership through the difficulties and the challenges of COVID-19. So thank you, Marilee Fullerton. Throughout the pandemic, the dedication and sacrifice of Ontario's frontline healthcare workers cannot be understated, and neither can the toll the pandemic has taken on their physical and mental well-being. They were there for us, and we need to be there for them. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because we need to ensure our healthcare workforce is supported in order to protect and expand the capacity in our healthcare system. That's why we are recruiting more than 5,000 registered nurses and registered practical nurses throughout the healthcare system, and hiring an additional 8,000 personal support workers for our healthcare system. This is on top of the 27,000 that we're hiring for our long-term care system. We're also investing to ensure our healthcare workers can access mental health and addiction supports. And we are investing to expand home and community care so patients can recover where they are most comfortable, at home. And finally, helping more seniors live with safety and dignity in their own homes by proposing to extend the Seniors Home Safety Tax Credit to 2022. Building capacity requires staff, but it also requires infrastructure. That's why our government is getting shovels in the ground to build and expand hospitals, including the Children's Treatment Center at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. And in my office, I have two things on the wall. One of them, I'll leave the one for another speech. Maybe you'll invite me back. But the one that's right in front of my desk is the headline from the Ottawa Citizen the day after I tabled the March 2021 budget. And it said, "Game changer for Ottawa, the investment in the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario." And isn't that what public service is all about? That you can do those sort of things to help those most vulnerable and needy in society. And so it's my honor to be able to make that investment in CHEO. The Civic Campus redevelopment project at the Ottawa Hospital. So that's an important investment. And finally, the expansion project at the Carlington Community Health Center in partnership with the Ottawa Community Housing Corporation. So after years of neglect, our government is finally providing our loved ones with the quality of health that they deserve. But to deliver that quality of care, we need the federal government to come to the table. And that's why we will continue to join our provincial and territorial partners in calling on the federal government to increase their share of the health funding through the Canada Health Transfer and maintain this level over time with a minimal annual escalator of 5%. If the pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that we need to strengthen our healthcare system now more than ever. And I'm sure many of you know that when Medicare was set up 50 years ago, or maybe over 60 years ago, it was a 50-50 cost share. We now in Ontario pick up 78% of the cost. That's why it's so incredibly important that we continue to focus on our healthcare and have the federal government come to the table to restore their historic fair share. You know, our plan also addresses the progress we have made against the pandemic. But like I said before, it also looks forward. To achieve that vision, we have to address some of the long-standing challenges facing our economic growth here in Ontario. Challenges that, frankly, previous governments did not do enough to address. Challenges like economic productivity. Not only has Ontario lagged behind other jurisdictions in productivity, we lag all the other provinces. The national average is 1.2%. We're below that. As I said, we're at the low end of the productivity scale. And at the same time, we have a population growth challenge. The number of seniors aged 65 and over is projected to almost double from about 2.6 million last year to almost 4.5 million by 2046. That means fewer workers supporting more retirees and more pressure on our healthcare capacity. That's why immigration is so critical to our long-term prosperity. And as the Premier has said, we have more jobs than workers, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. We're expecting our population to grow by almost 5.3 million people by 2046. So to address the first challenge, we have to address the second challenge. Population growth will require infrastructure, transit, highways, hospitals, housing, and high-speed internet. Because tomorrow's prosperity depends on getting shovels in the ground today. La prospérité de demain se repose sur les chantiers qui sont lancés aujourd'hui. That's why our government is building Ontario. For too long, our roads, on highways, and transit systems have frankly not kept pace with our growing population. Too many precious hours are wasted stuck in traffic instead of spending time with family and friends. So without real leadership today, it will only get worse. More gridlock, more traffic, more time wasted, more opportunities missed. That's why our government is investing in highways that will get Ontarians out of gridlock. That's why we've committed over $2.6 billion to expand and repair Ontario's highway and bridges, including an additional $474 million over the next 5 years to rehabilitate critical bridge infrastructure, including rapid bridge replacements at Booth Street, at Percy Street, Bronson Avenue, Rochester Street, and Preston Street on Highway 417. We're committed to building Ontario and to building Ottawa by supporting public transportation and transit infrastructure while ensuring accountability to Ontario taxpayers. Commuters in Ottawa, Nepean, in Canada, and in Renfrew deserve nothing less. And our government recognizes that the foundation for our recovery must be laid in every corner of this great province. And that includes regions that have been too long ignored by previous administrations. Which is why we are doubling the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund over 5 years to support over 400 small, rural, and northern communities. Not only will these projects create good-paying jobs over the next 5 years, they will keep our communities safe and support the recovery of main streets all across this province. So when our government talks about laying that foundation for growth in every corner of our province, one area that I'd like to talk about is Ontario's north. For too long, the 24,000 people who call Ontario's far north home, 90% of whom identify as First Nations, have been denied investment and prosperity and opportunity. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time to finally make real investments in the north, starting with the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is one of the most important mineral deposits in all of Canada. It can be a vital source of economic development for communities across the north, especially for First Nations communities. And critical minerals are essential to the batteries, electric vehicles, and electrics manufacturing our economy badly needs. An investment in the Ring of Fire is an investment in northern prosperity for the people of Ontario and frankly for all Canadians. But it takes more than just money to build better roads and highways or to get new hospital and long-term care spaces off the ground. It also takes workers. And one of the challenges we must address is our province's skills gap. Ontario has the lowest share of adults with an apprenticeship or trades credential at 4.5% in the country, well below the Canadian average of 10.5%. You know, Mayor, you were talking about the official bird of Ottawa is the crane, because you have so many cranes. You know, we need the skilled workers to continue building Ottawa and building Ontario. But what does that statistic mean in practice? It means fewer workers with the skills we need to build transit, housing, and other infrastructure. Fewer workers with the skills we need to attract investment in advanced manufacturing, like just here in Canada, including electric vehicles and battery technology. Fewer workers with skills needed to grow the economy. That's why our government is committed to working for workers. We want Ontario workers in a race to the top, not a race to the bottom. Nous voulons que les travailleuses et les travailleurs de l'Ontario puissent améliorer leur sort au lieu de voir leur situation se détériorer. It starts with recognizing that many workers and families in this province are struggling. Take-home pay has not kept pace with the rising cost of essentials that families rely on, like groceries. During the pandemic, workers had our backs, And our government will always be there for theirs. And that's why our government is proposing to take Ontario's general minimum wage to $15 an hour, effective January 1st. We're also eliminating the legal exceptions that allowed liquor servers in bars and restaurants to be paid less than the general minimum wage. We're the second to last province in the country to do that. We now have the second highest minimum wage in the country. And we will resume raising that minimum wage on an annual basis based on the Ontario Consumer Price Index as of October 1st, 2022. So while other provinces and other places talk about doing more for helping workers, our government, under the leadership of Premier Doug Ford, has delivered real action that puts workers first. And we're just getting started. We're investing an additional $5 million in the second career program and expanding its scope to include newcomers, gig workers, and people with disabilities. We're also proposing to extend the Ontario Jobs Training Tax Credit to 2022, which provides up to $2,000 for 50% of eligible training expenses for workers to upgrade their skills. So if you're prepared to put in the work, the time, and the effort to learn a new skill to support your family, our government is prepared to put in the money and give you every opportunity to see it through. The skilled jobs provide good jobs that can support families, but too few young people see the trades as a career opportunity. That's why our government is investing an additional $90 million in a skilled trade strategy that will break the stigma and make it even easier to learn a trade in this province going forward, ensuring that workers have the skills they need to fulfill their dreams. But it's only one side of the coin. We'll also support business and attract the investment that will create thousands of good-paying jobs for Ontario workers. That's why we've enabled over $10 billion in cost savings and supports for Ontario businesses, including over $6 billion for small businesses. You know, there was a time not that long ago when Ontario was a manufacturing powerhouse in Ontario, but our previous governments failed to support manufacturing workers and drove 300,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs out of the province. The impact of these losses wasn't just felt by the workers themselves. The impact was felt by families, by communities. The compounded social and economic cost of those 300,000 lost jobs and the abandoning of our manufacturing sector by previous governments cannot be understated. That's why our government is committed to creating thousands of well-paying jobs for Ontario workers in the industries of the future. Since our government came to power, we have seen almost $6 billion in new investments, commitments in Ontario's auto sector from major manufacturers, including a $1 billion investment from General Motors to manufacturing a new line of electric vehicles at its Ingersoll facility. They've also put in a $1.3 billion to reopen the Oshawa assembly plant and add productions as well at their St. Catharines plant. And we're just getting started. Yesterday, Premier Ford joined Minister Fedeli to unveil Driving Prosperity, the future of Ontario's automotive sector. The next phase of our auto strategy to secure production mandates for hybrid and electric vehicles, to create a domestic battery ecosystem and position Ontario as the North American automotive innovation hub. We have an opportunity right now to establish Ontario Made as the gold standard in advanced manufacturing and electric vehicle manufacturing worldwide right here in Ontario. It's an opportunity that our government refuses to let us pass by. And our government recognizes that the pandemic is not over. But as I said, we are also looking to the future. We're looking forward. And despite calls to impose painful tax hikes on Ontario families and job creators, we have chosen a different path. Our plan for recovery is built on growth, not tax increases or spending cuts. Our government's plan is prudent. It's responsible. It's a plan to protect the progress we have made. It's a plan for the future. And it's a plan to work for all workers who make it happen. In closing, I want to take a moment to recognize the efforts of one of my colleagues, a true champion, and truer words were never spoken, a true champion for Ontario's tourism and hospitality sector. From the very beginning of the pandemic, Mr. McLeod has been there to support one of the hardest hit sectors, and I would submit perhaps the hardest hit sector. And I'm proud of the work that we have done together to support small businesses and operators in the hospitality and tourism sector. That includes the introduction of our proposed Ontario Staycation Tax Credit, a tax credit that would put money back in the pockets of Ontario travelers and families. And when they choose to travel right here at home, we'll be supporting businesses right across Ontario. We want to provide that helping hand to the workers and entrepreneurs in our vibrant hospitality and tourism sector. So thank you very much, Lisa MacLeod, for your leadership. Finally, in closing, our province cannot afford to go back to the politics of no. Instead, I submit, let's say yes. Yes to building, yes to investing, and yes to growing. Let's say yes to the better and brighter future in the people of Ontario that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Michael, I'm going to invite you up to the stage for a very brief Q&A with the minister. Michael Curran is the publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal and a trusted champion for the business community in Ottawa. Take it away. Thank you.
Good morning, Minister. I think I'll refer to you as Minister. Oh, do we need this on? There we go. I know how the technology works. I was going to say, I'll call you Minister and stay away from Bethlenfalvy.
Not bad. It took me a while to figure it out myself.
Yeah,
so you're
okay. Thank you very much. You went into some great depth there. Appreciate you covering many aspects of the economy. So maybe I'll focus on two things. Behind us is the phrase, protecting our progress. So I think there must be many people in this room that feel that we have made progress in the business community in a reopening and recovery strategy. Having said that, we understand, Dr. Vera Etches is sitting right here in front of us, that the pandemic is not over and that the fourth wave still poses some threats and potentially even what comes after the fourth wave. So I guess the question is, what decision-making matrix will your government use to ensure that small businesses and medium-sized and large businesses, for that matter, will stay open and functioning as we recover from the pandemic?
Oh, it's a great question, Michael. That's really one that I get asked a lot. And folks, first off, we got to just recognize that COVID's still with us. Our numbers are up in Ontario again today. So we're watching those very closely. There's over 1 million people still who haven't got vaccinated. We're waiting for the approval from Health Canada for children 5 to 11. We've got to stay vigilant, folks. I mean, this can take off in a heartbeat. You see what's happening in Austria, what's happening in Netherlands. In a heartbeat, this can go south. So the vaccination, we're going to continue to focus on creative ways to encourage people to get vaccinated. We're not going to relent on physical distancing. I'm glad we're more than 6 feet apart. Wearing masks, I'm great to see many people wearing masks. Folks, this is still serious. We're not out of the woods. And one of the hardships, of course, that if the numbers do go up, and particularly on our hospital capacity, so we watch the ICU capacity very closely. It's around 130-ish right now. But that can take off very quickly, and there's nothing that will bring the economy to its knees like overwhelming our healthcare system. And so we don't want to go backwards. That's why we're opening gradually, cautiously. We've got metrics that we look at. We have a time frame to ease restrictions, but as you saw, the medical officers, chief medical officer and his team will not hesitate to advise our government to delay or to be cautious. Now that said, why is that so important to businesses? It's so important for businesses that they have customers. We had capacity restrictions. We got vaccination levels to the number where we could say, okay, let's go from 50% capacity to 100% capacity if you're double vaxxed. And to make it easier, we developed the Verify app so that we could increase to those businesses to welcome back customers and safely, that they felt comfortable going back to a restaurant or to a gym or to a hair salon or wherever. So we developed that Verify app, and by all accords, that's gone extremely well to make business owners feel safe, their customers feel safe, and keep that capacity limits in place. But we won't hesitate to take the appropriate measures. We just ask everyone to continue pushing to get the vaccinations, to follow the protocols, and I think that's the best medicine for business, is that we keep the economy open.
I also wanted to ask you about daycare. Daycare is sometimes probably perceived as a social issue, but in fact, it's also a workforce strategy in terms of maximizing full participation in the economy. The newly elected federal government has a national daycare strategy. Many provinces, recently Alberta, I think this week, have entered into a formal agreement. What can we expect from the provincial government?
Well, first off, childcare is not just good social policy that our government fully supports and believes in, but it's, as I mentioned, it's a great economic policy. I launched a women's task force in the March budget. I'm very pleased with the advice that we've gotten from the task force, from Dr. Karen Schnarr, women right across the province advising our government on best ways to support women in the economy, women in skilled trades, women entrepreneurs, women entering the workforce and re-entering. And childcare is an important part of that. In terms of working with Ottawa, what is so important is that we get a sustainable and a good deal for Ontario. I mentioned the Canada Health Transfer. So great program, 50-50 cost share. And now we're picking up almost 80% of the costs at a time when our population is aging, when the healthcare costs go like that. So we have to make sure that this deal doesn't just end in 5 years or has a cliff, that it's sustainable for the families, for the children of Ontario. I think another important thing is the federal government recognizes, and I think they do, that we have all-day kindergarten in Ontario. Virtually no other province has all-day kindergarten. 4-year-olds have all-day kindergarten. That's about $1.8 billion. The combined for 4 and 5-year-olds is $3.8 billion. So we're already investing in a form of $0 a day childcare. So I think I had a lot of conversations with Chrystia Freeland before the election. We were making great progress, as was our Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, as well as the Premier and the Prime Minister. We're committed to getting a deal that works for Ontario, that works for Canadians, works for hardworking families in this province.
I'd love to ask you many more questions, Minister, but we're running short on time. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone here for making the trip to the nation's capital and for your very informative words today on the future of the provincial economy. And I think we'll turn things over to Sue Ling, who will introduce Lisa MacLeod. Thank you, Minister.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Michael and Minister. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Honourable Lisa MacLeod, who is the Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture. Welcome, Minister.
Thanks so much, Sue Ling. Isn't my colleague, the Honourable Peter Bethlenfalvy, an incredible champion for this province? I am so delighted that you're here. Thank you so much. He is really, truly one of the great gentlemen of the Ontario Legislature, and of the 15 years that I've had the pleasure of serving all of you at Queen's Park, I have to say he's one of the most remarkable people I've had the privilege of serving with. You're a strong leader. You're an astute minister, and I think you've seen that today. But I have to say he's also a good friend. And, our mayor often says that the third largest industry in the city of Ottawa is tourism. So just think about this for a second. Given this portfolio, heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries, I actually submit we're probably 2A, because we deal so much with film and television production. We deal so much with interactive digital media, animation. Actually, we have probably the best animators in the world coming out of Algonquin College. And so I'm really just delighted that I've had a true ally, both when he was Treasury Board President, but now as Finance Minister, to walk through this journey, particularly through the pandemic, because he understands some of the great investments we were able to make into our city are areas like the Blues Fest, to the Deefam Bunker, to Shepherds of Good Hope, to the Ottawa Food Bank, to the Magic of Lights, which I'll be at tonight at Wesley Clover, and our Boys and Girls Club, among many others. And I want to say in particular thank you to him for significant investments. I had the opportunity to work with him as he led the Jobs and Recovery Committee of Cabinet during the pandemic. And we used to joke, because I have the hardest hit sectors, that it was the LMAC committee, because every day it would be me dealing with on the agenda trying to get things reopened. And he was very helpful in not just securing funding for our sectors, but ensuring that we were able to safely reopen many of our sectors. And many of these sectors, as Michael Crockett will tell you, we took for granted prior to the pandemic. It was going to our kids' soccer games or hockey games, staying at a hotel, going to a restaurant, visiting one of our art galleries in town or a museum. And then, of course, that all stopped 20 months ago. And to have somebody at my side that was, understanding of these sectors and understanding that we were the first hit, we were the hardest hit, and we are still going to take probably 5 to 10 years to recover. And that's why I wanted just to highlight some of the things that he has done for our city in particular. In the last budget, he brought in $15 million for our regional tourism organizations. And understanding that Ottawa and Toronto are the hardest hit, he allowed me the flexibility to ensure that Toronto received $9 million based on its population, but Michael Crockett was able to continue on in his work by awarding him $6 million to invest in Ottawa, so that when it's time, we will have direct marketing access to other parts of the world. We also were able to invest, for the first time ever, the largest in festivals and event programming in the province of Ontario. And Ottawa received $6 million, far more than the $1 million it received in previous years. And I just want you to think about this. When you go to Blues Fest, it's not just the artists that we're looking at in terms of supportive. Okay. It's just not the artists that we're funding. It's the people that are building the stages. It's the people that are coming to rent the porta potties. It is the people that are working security. Every time we invest $1 into Blues Fest, we get 21 back. That's a pretty good return on investment for the province of Ontario. And so I want to thank him for that. The Ontario Trillium Foundation received an additional $105 million over the last 2 years. That had a direct impact to the Shepherds of Good Hope, allowing them to reopen and making sure that they had the ability to open their new restaurant. We were able to invest $3 million into the Valor Games, which is the legacy of the Invictus Games. And my beloved Shaw Centre, and I know many of you are eager, I think, to get back to conferences. You know, they are always a self-generating operation, our iconic Shaw Centre. They never really rely on the province of Ontario to deal with any of their operational funding. And thanks to our Minister of Finance, we've been able to stabilize the Shaw Centre through its closure by investing an additional $6.5 million into that iconic institution in our city. Minister Bethlenfalvy's talked about skills development and trade, which is absolutely critical in our city, particularly as it pertains to the sectors I represent. But I wanted to thank him for increasing the staycation tax credit from $150 million to $270 million. That's going to help the Brook Street Hotel. That's going to help the Chateau Laurier. That is going to help the smaller hotels across the entire city of Ottawa, but it's also going to help the recovery of our hockey and soccer and basketball tournaments. It's going to make it more affordable for moms and dads to travel with their children next year. It's going to make sure that we have a lot more people going into our restaurants, which are fragile. And it's also going to make sure that Ontario is a destination of choice, and in particular, our city of Ottawa, for other Ontarians. So with that, I wanted to highlight the remarkable work that he has been doing, and to thank him on behalf of the people of Ottawa, in particular, the people that I represent in Nepean and in the heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industry. So thank you for coming. We would love to have you for longer. If you'd like to leave your wallet when you go back on the plane, Jim and I will know how to spend it. And and I look forward to seeing you at Queen's Park. And I know on behalf of everyone here, we're delighted that you took some time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister MacLeod. And may I say both to you and Minister Fullerton that we are very grateful to have your leadership here in Ottawa. And we're very grateful for the collaboration and communication that you have demonstrated. We call it radical collaboration over these times. And we look forward to working together. To Minister Bethlenfalvy, you have been, It's easy. It's been a pleasure working with you virtually over these past months, and you were impressive on Zoom, but even more so in person. So thank you so much for being here. At the Board of Trade, we are working to continue our response to COVID while planning for a prosperous future in Ottawa and Ontario. And I want to just share a few updates with you. We will continue the rapid test distribution and the promotion of our post promise with the support of the Ontario government, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, the City of Ottawa, and Ottawa Tourism to build our local business, consumer, and employee confidence. We have recently launched a new Buy Local Ottawa campaign called Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is. And we are asking each of you to get involved and support our local small and medium enterprises, many in the hardest hit sectors. It is a critical time for business growth, and in some cases, it will mean their survival into the new year. Your consumer dollar is powerful, so we encourage you to think global but act local. This is the second last day before we close the Ontario Chamber Business Confidence Survey. If there's one thing that we have learned collectively over these last 20 months, it's that data is king. We need to know what Ottawa-based businesses are facing and planning so that we can effectively communicate with decision makers. Please go on to our website to find the link and fill out that very brief survey. I will also mention that we really need to focus on celebration during this time. And we have much to celebrate in Ottawa, including the businesses, the organizations, and leaders that we have among us. So please tune in on November the 25th at 8 p.m. to Rogers TV and online as we recognize the business acumen, the community contributions, and the strong leadership of the Best Ottawa Business Award recipients, including our very own Dr. Etches. I encourage all of you to stay connected to your Ottawa Board of Trade. We are here for you. We are advocating for you. And we recently hosted the president of the Ontario Chamber, and he shared a concept with us called the power of one. If every business member in our community refers one other business to become a member, we can become strong and stronger in no time and continue to work in collaboration on your behalf with every level of government. Keep an eye out for our upcoming events. The next two are the Mayor's Breakfast with Roseanne Archibald, the National Chief of Assembly of First Nations. That's on November the 29th. Thank you for hosting us again at City Hall. And also save the date for December the 14th, where we'll be going back to our annual Ottawa Economic Outlook at the Shaw Centre. And we're going to be thrilled to be hosting Mary Rowe, who's the president of the Canadian Urban Institute. Once again, thank you for being here, your continued contributions to our business community, and your support for the local Board of Trade. I wish you a highly productive and innovative day, and we'll see you again soon.